Now we're going to get to something a little bit funny, okay? Pretty funny. The cat's out the bag, ladies and gentlemen. George Galloway and Piers Morgan, they like to go at it. Like they butt heads sometimes, right? But nothing is as epic as this performance here. I think this appearance by George Galloway on Piers Morgan's show has to be the best one yet. And he's been on there before, but he really handed it to Piers Morgan. In fact, before that show, he put out a tweet that said, if Piers Morgan broadcasts our whole interview and doesn't edit it, he will be seen bleeding on the floor. Metaphorically, of course. I'm not, after all, a Labor MP. So that was George Galloway trying to, I guess, call out Piers Morgan before the interview. And Piers Morgan's response was, oh, it's airing in full. Relax, Putin puppet. So this is another thing, right, where Piers Morgan calls George Galloway a Putin puppet. By the way, like a lot of people who want this war to end, George Galloway is just calling people Putin puppets. So again, he's there for the establishment. He's shilling for Israel, and he's out there shilling for Ukraine, which is basically being a big money laundering scheme, and of course, an adventure for BlackRock. So that tells you a lot about Piers Morgan. But nothing is a takedown like this one. It is so good. So good. So here you have Piers Morgan. I don't know this dude who has his neck up. I don't know why his neck is up like that. I think that's Julian Michaels. That's Sam Cedar. And then there's George Galloway, who is smiling very hard. Let's go ahead and get into it, guys. Here we go.
It's really come to something when, having spent a lifetime myself fighting against NATO and American wars, it's the Americans that are trying to stop the war, and Piers Morgan, Boris Johnson, and Keir Starmer, who are trying to keep it going.
I don't want to keep it going.
A lot of Ukrainian,
I don't want to keep it going.
You've got a lot of Ukrainian blood on your hands. You have lied about this war from the beginning.
Actually, Vladimir,
you have lied about the origin of this war, about the duration of this war, about the course of this war, and now, having caused you and your war party the death of 1 million Ukrainians while claiming to love Ukrainians, you're now calling for British lives to be lost.
So that's a really important point there, like that, right? Because one of the things that Piers Morgan has come across as pro-war, whether it was Israel and Gaza or whether it was Russia and Ukraine, he has come across as pro-war. Again, establishment shill here. Piers Morgan, again, like I said, don't forget who his boss and mentor was, which was Rupert Murdoch, right? Who owns Fox News. At one point in time, don't forget, Piers Morgan used to work for Rupert Murdoch. And this show, which is now uncensored, at one point, I think this was part of The Talk, and then it kind of split off into its own thing or whatever. But anyway, the point is this. Piers Morgan exists to protect the establishment and the status quo. And as long as you're pro that, Piers is cool with you. But the moment that you want to push back against that, Piers, his role is to have a problem. And I'll tell you why I said role later on. But let's get back to this.
Load of absolute bullshit.
That constitutes close to a war crime. You're going to regret it when very soon Zelensky is sitting in a beachfront villa somewhere counting his ill-gotten gains, and all the secrets of the rampant corruption between the Democrats and the Zelensky regime begin to tumble out of the cupboard. This war did not begin 3 years ago. You very well know that it began in 2014. You very well know that it began with a coup against the elected president of Ukraine, backed by Victoria Nuland and the administration at that time, and supported by you. You very well know that the criminalization of the Russian language, which followed hard on the heels of that coup, was the proximate reason for an uprising in the east of the country amongst Russian-speaking, ethnically Russian people. You very well know that Zelensky and his predecessor rained down shot and shell on the people of East Ukraine, for 8 years before Putin intervened.
That part, I'm surprised that George Galloway was able to say as much as he did, because that's the part that I feel like Piers Morgan would have interrupted, is the history about everything. And like I said before, you can choose, like, you can say that you don't like Vladimir Putin. You can say, I don't like Putin, I don't like Russia, that kind of thing, whatever it is. You can say that, but you can't deny the history. And that is what's been happening when it comes to this particular conflict. People always want to start with, it started on day one when this country invaded this one. No, it didn't. And what was really sad, I even saw some progressive commentators making that same mistake. It started that day. No, it didn't. People don't want to go into the history. And I think it is important to know that. So I was surprised that Piers actually was quiet for as long as he was during this part.
2022. And that 14,000 people, most of them women and children, were killed in that onslaught. You very well know that Zelensky was preparing for a final onslaught, a final solution. And while I'm on that subject, you're always telling us how much you love the Jews. You're supporting a regime which puts up statues to Nazi collaborators, to generals of the Galician division of the SS. You
Zelensky
are
is Jewish,
you know
that. That part right there. Say it again, guys. That part right there. You are always on camera talking about people being anti-Semitic and you need to fight back against anti-Semitism. And you are simping for a country. And we'll get into this. I'll deep dive into this Tuesday for Tuesday night show, because Tuesday night, I'm going to tell you guys and show you what is really sad. The black politicians who are simping for a white supremacist country. We're going to get into all of that. We're talking about Ukraine. Yes, it's not like it always a couple of people who might be neo-Nazis. No. I have the letter from Congress that broke this all down, warning people prior to this war with Russia and Ukraine about the rise of neo-Nazism in Ukraine. So yes, George Galloway is correct when he talks about you're out here praising people that have statues of people who were literally Nazis. So you can't be one or the other. Now, Piers Morgan's going to try to come in here and he's going to say, but Zelensky is Jewish. So That don't mean shit. Ain't you ever heard of the term sellout Uncle Tom? That don't mean anything. That don't mean anything. That's like someone pointing to someone like Larry Elder. You guys know Larry Elder? Black Republican in California. He was the one that said slave owners should get reparations. That Larry Elder. Okay, everybody got their sellouts. Every group has their sellouts. People who are willing to throw their own population under the bus for some coin. So that don't mean anything, Piers. That don't mean nothing. Well, I'm not this way because I have a black friend and That don't mean shit. What a convenient excuse. Let's continue. We'll go back just a little bit so you can hear that part again.
Of the SS, you
Zelensky
are
is Jewish, you know that, right? You know Zelensky's Jewish, right? Do you?
But that's like saying there's no racism in America because Obama.
So So you're calling the Jewish leader of Ukraine a Nazi. Is that your position?
That's like saying there's no racism in America because Obama was briefly the president of the country.
I don't know if I would have used that example, but I see where George Galloway was going with that, where he was saying, like, you can't say that people say, well, this country was never racist because there's no racism here because Barack Obama was president. I get that, but I think it would have been better if he used an example to show that there are people who are of said population that have been known to turn against their own people for some coin. That's the important part. Everybody got those people, every population. If you watching me, you know some people in your group too. So let's just keep it real. Everybody know that one person that was willing to say, okay, yeah, I'm going to throw my people under the bus because there's some money or benefit in it for me. All right. So think about that for a second. So I would use a different example, but let's continue here.
The entire western part of Ukraine played a decisive role in the mass murder of Jews and Poles and others in the Second World War. And now they are heroizing the heroes of the SS. Why doesn't Donald Trump agree with you?
Because he's wrong.
Well, you know, you have been up his ass all of these 2 decades.
Really?
You've kissed his feet.
Really?
You've licked his boots. You've fawned upon him.
Really?
You have been his super fan. And now, on this fundamental question of our age, he's entirely wrong. Piers, everybody watching knows you are Trump's biggest ass.
I like
kisser.
him.
Oh my God, that was epic. We got to drop the beat for that one. He says, you were Trump's biggest ass kisser. Can we go ahead and drop the beat, fam? Dance with me. Dance with me. Do the fuck. Shake the fuck. That was, oh my God, that was epic. I'm sorry. That's too funny. That's just too funny. I'm sorry. Oh my God. Okay, we'll finish up here.
You are Trump's biggest ass.
I like
kisser.
him. I like
Everybody
him.
watching.
I like
knows
Donald
that.
Trump.
I know you like him.
I like
don't
him.
like him.
And on
You
many
like
things,
him.
on many
But
things,
on this, he's
I
wrong.
like him. And
the
on many things,
fundamental question.
let me finish.
The biggest question in politics in the world today, he's got it completely wrong.
No, it's a little expected.
Ukraine was the most corrupt country.
What, more
in
corrupt
Europe
than Russia?
More
corrupt than Russia?
It was designated by the economists,
What about Putin?
by the FT,
What about Putin?
by everyone who knows
What
about
about
these
Putin?
things. I'll tell you what, your mate, Donald Trump, is going to open every book, every drawer, every filing cabinet, and you're going to be embarrassed.
That was probably the best, one of the best takedowns that I've seen of Piers Morgan, because it's so, oh my God. Like, I want people to understand what Piers Morgan really represents. He's there to operate for the state. He's there to operate for the empire, right? He's not there to advocate against that. He's not there to be anti-war. He's not there. None of that. He's there to advocate for the empire. And that's what he does. And I think that people will finally understand. Again, I don't agree with, I don't agree with George Galloway on everything. But I think on this particular position, he's right. Like, they know that Ukraine can't win. So continuing this war and giving them weapons, that means that you are agreeing to more Ukrainians losing their lives. That means that more Ukrainians will die. That also means that when push comes to shove, either things will escalate and lead us into a World War III, or Ukraine will lose in such a crushing blow, the economy will be finished, and Zelensky will collect his coins and go live somewhere else on some resort island. And the people of Ukraine will be screwed. All because NATO and the US government wanted to tempt Russia. And this all goes back to expanding NATO, which was not supposed to happen. And at least not towards Russia. That was agreed upon after the fall of the Berlin Wall. And so people, when you ask, like, how did we get here? And I always think it's important to visit that. How did we get here? You need to know how we got here. Now, that doesn't mean that Vladimir Putin is right about everything. I don't believe that. That doesn't believe that Vladimir Putin is perfect. There's no such thing as a perfect leader anywhere. But what it does mean is that it is very clear that NATO and the US government, they implemented this. And it does go back to those years that George Galloway was discussing there. Now, there was something else that he said I want to show you. This is after that conversation took place. George Galloway posted, for 16 months, Piers Morgan, Piers Uncensored, has been Netanyahu's chief bitch in the online podcaster world. Yet, according to Tucker Carlson, Morgan, formerly of TV and ex-showbiz editor of The Sun newspaper, hates Israel with every fiber of his being. He is a prostitute. Nothing more, nothing less. I think I responded to this, didn't I? Oh, yeah, I did. I did. I responded with Elmo. I was like, what? Elmo say what? Yeah. So if that's true, what that means is that Piers Morgan is a paid actor. And it's all just for show. That's what that means. If that's true. So, interesting times, ladies and gentlemen. Hey guys, this was a Sabby clip. If you like what you saw, hit that like button and subscribe.